The cast of the movie Bison's Declaration makes it a must-see. Song Kang-ho, Lee Byung-hun, Jeon Do-yeon, Kim Nam-gil, and Im Ji-won, plus Park Hae-joon and Kim So-jin. In any given movie, only one or two of the cast members may appear. The only information released was the airplane hijacking. Other than that, I went into the movie knowing nothing. Even when I saw the trailer, what stood out to me was the way that Im Ji-won said something along the lines of, "I hope they're all dead." After the movie started, I didn't feel this impactful at all. Jin Sok is at the airport trying to catch a flight and asks what the most popular route is. He gets angry and walks away, cursing at the employee who doesn't answer him properly. He then inserts an unknown chip into his body, which Jae-hyuk's Lee Byung-hun daughter happens to see. Jin Sok checks it out and realizes that they're both going to Hawaii, so they take the same flight. In Ho Song Kang-ho is a homicide detective whose wife is traveling with a friend. He receives a call about an airplane bombing, and instead of ignoring it, he goes to the scene. When he arrives at the scene, he finds a strange dead body in the apartment. It turns out that they were exposed to some kind of poison. After the plane takes off, Jin Sok gets into action. From then on, the movie begins to race in earnest. Yoon-soo Kim Nam-gil and Jae-hyuk, the airplane's first officer, have known each other for years. They don't see each other because they have problems. When In-ho finds out that there is a problem with the plane, Suk-hee Jeon Do-yeon, the Minister of Land, rushes to the control center to take charge and handle it. Tae-soo Park Hae-joon, who has been dispatched from the Blue House, assists her. On the plane, Hee-jin Kim So-jin, the lead flight attendant, tries to get back to work after the incident, but it doesn't go as planned. It's hard to say much more than that about the movie as a whole. It's hard to say much more about the movie as a whole because it would be too much a spoiler and would likely ruin the fun of watching it. At its core, the movie is about being in a confined space and not being able to do anything. There's nowhere to run and nowhere to go except on the plane. The movie is divided into two main axes. One axis is the events after the terrorist attack on the airplane. The other is the actions of the people on the ground as they struggle to keep the people on the plane alive. In-ho is driven by the fact that his wife was on the plane. He is driven from the ground, from what caused this to what should be done. Here we see a governmental, not just a civilian, response to what to do with the people on that plane. The most important thing in a movie like this is the sense of urgency. It's all about how suspenseful it is. It's not that there's a big story, but it's how you develop it well. In that regard, the movie is quite suspenseful. The terrorism itself is actually resolved early on. It's not so much about the terrorism as it is about what happens afterward and how it will be resolved. What was disappointing was the emotional build-up to the tears at the end. It felt a little too forced. 1 tablespoon of emotion would have been fine, but I tried to add 10 tablespoons of it. A tablespoon or 2 of seasoning can really enhance the flavor. Here again, it would have been much better if I had done it at the end. I didn't force the umami, but it felt overdone. A little more restraint would have made for a much more cohesive and moving movie. Since the movie was showing the big picture, there was nothing to show for the acting, except for Song Kang-ho, who gave a decent performance. That's not to say that he can't act, but it's not a movie that can be done while showing any kind of acting. It's a movie about humanity and how people behave in special situations. What's more, the choices made in Batman, which have become quite famous, are also made here. For example, a train is moving and there are people standing right in front of it. The train conductor turns the train around, which saves the people, but puts everyone else on the train at risk. The question is, do you sacrifice one person to keep everyone else on the train safe? I was more impressed with the supporting cast than the lead actors. There were a lot of actors that I usually see in movies here and there. I honestly didn't recognize their names, but their faces were familiar. Their performances made the movie much richer. In particular, some of the actors I've only seen in dramas, so it was a bit of a surprise to see them in a movie. Obviously, Korea produces a lot of movies and dramas, so there are a lot of actors everywhere. The movie itself was suspenseful, but I was disappointed that it lost some of its power towards the end.